I want to say thank you to everyone who has contributed to this community, who helps us. This does not produce funds. We don't make any money doing this. We're monks. We need help. We need dana, or generosity, or donations. So thank you so much for doing that. Some people are not able to, but they attend. At least you can give your attention to the Dharma, even if you can't give funds. Give your attention to it. Don't miss this chance. So the title is Gratitude for What? Why should I have gratitude? Life is crummy. Or I'm not getting what I want. Or I'm not. Didn't get this, didn't get that. Gratitude. Gratitude for what? Gratitude that you, we'll start out with basic stuff. Gravity. How about gravity? Another G word. You forget gravity, we forget it because it's always there. And so what do we do? What do? We take it for granted. It's absolute, complete, total, relative, and absolute magic that you couldn't even walk to the damn bathroom because of gravity. You couldn't do that if you didn't have gravity, if it just stopped. And something the particle physicists have not figured out yet. Why did gravity go away and we're all floating off into space? Because you weren't grateful. Another one of those transcendental jokes. You weren't grateful. Just pray. Pray for everything. You're not praying to somebody. A theistic approach is to pray to a God, an idea. Go ahead, do that. Some people need to do that. It's the only way they can do this. The only way. They have to do that. Do not, I'm going to use the obvious word, do not convert anybody to this. This is very hard to do. This is hard to sit down, as we've been doing for the last, 18 days? When our 18th day? 19. 19? So total, we've decided this year to just meditate the whole month of February. Did I pronounce that right? February. It's really irritating, isn't it, the language? Gratitude, gravity, that you can breathe, that you have a mind stream, that you have the six sense fields and their objects, that you can actually receive, instead of producing a bunch of bullshit out of your mind and laying this on this and blaming that and blaming this and blaming this, instead of producing, receive. And receive, and if you have an outflow, it doesn't have to be blaming somebody. That's just a natural thing that human beings do, including raccoons, giraffes, bison. They receive and they produce. They might just produce a few sounds. We don't know exactly what's going on in their mind stream. Probably a little bit different than humans, maybe a lot. So, pardon me again. That's a natural outflow. So you receive, if you receive this world, receive the complete, my teacher, Trungpa Rinpoche, would say ordinary magic of everything, just the magic of gravity. What is that? They don't even know what it is. You can describe it, you can talk about it, but you do not know what that is. If that works, then take an apple, put it on a pencil, spin it, and try to get something to stick to it. Good luck. Yeah, I'm kind of a closet physicist. So why that? I'm sure that someone can say, "Oh, well, that's because the mass and the probably Juzan could tell us. Well, you haven't studied that. That's not required. Okay. I've studied this much. What's in there? Tell me right now."
I don't even remember.
That's unusual for you not to remember things. Didn't you memorize the Heart Sutra or the Diamond Sutra or Samdhinirmitana Sutra? No, didn't. Am I making fun of you? Yeah. Is there someone who's being made fun of? No. There isn't anyone there. There is no other. There is no self. There is no other. Don't believe it. It's not a belief. If it's a belief, it'll come apart. But if you just see it and you don't maintain it, if you maintain it, then you're treating it like relative truth. It never goes away. Just like gravity never goes away. It's like gravity, but it's not the same. Gravity does not disappear. Be grateful for your heartbeat. for your eyes, for your nose, for your life, because it's coming to an end. It's not negativity. It's not nihilism. It's not a threat. It's just the truth. What shows up goes away. Anything that shows up goes away. So if something doesn't show up, it can't go away. This is Buddha nature. This is ultimate truth. Ultimate truth. You have to see it. You see, and there will be no proof. You will not be able to say, well, there's Buddha nature, and I'm seeing Buddha nature, and these are the proofs that you'll have no proof. It's not a fact. It is not a fiction. It is just ultimate, transcendentally the truth. It's beyond relative. But yet it's not beyond, because if it's beyond, then there's another polarity going on, another situation going on, which flies in the face of Advaita, or non-duality. Basic teaching that's been around before the Buddha. There are not two things anywhere. Looks like there is. It looks like there's a whole bunch of stuff. Doesn't there? What stuff do you like?
Food.
Food is a good stuff. Without that, no more practice. Can't face the wall if you're starving. Can't train your mind if you're not paying attention to just the basic necessities of being a living being. You'll need to do that. In this culture, we need to get jobs. In ancient India, because of the nature of the culture, anybody on the spiritual path was treated with great respect. They were a sannyasin. They were a parivrajaka, or a searcher. They were looking for the truth. And since you had a family, had a job, or had a business, you couldn't do that, but you respected the one who was doing that on your behalf, because fundamentally they're doing it on your behalf because there's a basic understanding that nothing is separate. So if one person goes and falls to the feet of the Buddha, then everyone does, in the mind of the Buddha and in the mind of that parivrajaka, or that sannyasin, or that student. How do we do this? The model that we use here of the three jewels, ancient, goes back forever. The teacher, the teaching in the community, the Buddha, not some guy, the Buddha, the enlightened one. Refuge in that. That is the example of sanity, one who has no position on anything and has no demands for anything else. Why? Not because they have this great discipline that keeps them all tucked away inside of a separate thing called me, because I'm the Buddha. No, it's worse than that, and it's better than that. It's worse than that because your self-centeredness is completely come apart. Falling apart. Every construct around the self starts to become shattered. And without a teacher to tell you, to say to you, to encourage you, just keep going. Return. Don't maintain. Maintain nothing. Return to that as the example. Return to the teaching as the path, and as meditation, training the mind, training the intellect, and then return to the Sangha, or the spiritual community. Those people who are on the path with you and are there to support you as company, you could say. Sannyasa, or what is it, spiritual friend, Kalyana Mitra, spiritual friend, either the Buddha or the teacher who knows what this is, the teacher who he, she, they speaks out of what they're looking at. If you see this, you don't need to look at books anymore. You might have looked at thousands of books. You might have sat and faced the wall thousands of hours, or looked at your mind, or practiced creation completion practice in the tantric discipline of Tibet. You may have done that, and maybe you should do that. What was the title of the talk? Why be grateful? Or
Grateful for what?
what was it?
Gratitude for what?
No. Is that what it was? Are you sure? Don't you want to check with Junshu? What does that mean? Why am I saying that? Why am I saying that? You monks.
It doesn't look like there's something to be grateful for all the time.
Yeah, it doesn't. It kind of cracks and falls apart. We feel, whatever, my words, not yours, just despondent or despairing or lonely or tired out. This is never going to work. You notice those little ego lectures you get from yourself, like, I'm not getting anywhere. Something's happening. You, Emily? Are you Emily?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm Sokuzan. So gratitude that this little sliver of light that runs right through the garbage pit called samsara. I'm not saying the garbage pit doesn't have beautiful empty cans, that the garbage pit doesn't have fragrances that are quite adorable and attractive temporarily, because everything that shows up is going to decay and it does not smell good. Everything showing up, this body-mind complex that we are so in love with, when we're not having a migraine, of course, that's suffering. The Buddha said, life is suffering. He was not exaggerating. Although people who look at this intellectually, who don't practice awareness practice, will say, well, that's kind of a negative way of looking at things. And yeah, it is, because life is very, very negative. Relative truth is full of nerve endings, and they're all being abraded or stroked or pleased in some way. We live on those nerve endings. Sometimes it feels good, sometimes it's scratchy, sometimes it feels like a hammer. But it's just feeling. It's just feeling. But what do we try to do? We try to stop that. We don't want that bad feeling. We want a good feeling. So we fight with our mind stream. It's called conflicting emotions about the nature of reality. Simply put, and it's put in a traditional way. I'm not saying something that I've invented. It just works. Conflicting emotions, the way that shows up, well, a part of me wants this, but then another part of me wants that. And then this other part of me wants thus and so. What should I do? I would say, shut up and sit down. Don't do anything. Don't think about it. Don't reflect on anything. Unless you spontaneously do, and then observe that. When doing shikantaza, doing sitting meditation, you're sitting here, you're facing a wall, not much is happening, all the senses are open, and your attitude is just receive everything. Then what you receive, what shows up, is going to be a lot of relative things, thoughts, ideas, memories, opinions, bad feelings, good feelings, especially if you're sitting here all month, 8 hours a day, which some of us are doing. I've been trying to join you as much as I can. Gratitude, appreciation. Not appreciation doesn't mean you understand what's there. It means that you're willing to include everything. This is a true appreciation. Just receive this astonishing world that is showing up in the form of the six sense fields, including the mind, including thoughts. It's also you're receiving thoughts. You do not think. You think, and I think you don't think. So deal with it. And I'm not saying something doesn't happen that creates the illusion that there is a thinker and a thought and an idea. That's the illusion. That's why sitting meditation turns the awareness back so you can watch what flows in the mind stream, watch the outflows that are spontaneously produced out of karma that you have not dealt with since the 13th century. It's here again. Nothing dies. Nothing dies. So everything is impermanent. That's done with awareness. That's not like an opinion. I'm looking at it, and you can see it too. Begin to train your mind. Find a place to sit down. Find a wall. You don't have to be a student of mind. Find someplace where nothing is happening. Look at it. That's basically, shows up in all the traditions. Shows up in Dzogchen. Shows up in Mahamudra. Shows up in all of them. Shows up in, you don't have to even be a Buddhist, just sit down, hold still, and walk. You have to hold still because the body and mind are not two different things. They're also not the same thing. But you have to see that with the awareness to see that the differentiation that is there is very, very subtle, and it's actually exquisite and is gorgeous. You have to see it. And it will come and go until it just never leaves, because it's always been there. It's like it's always daylight. This is not a promise. It's not a threat. Not anything. I'm just looking at it. But I can't grab you by the head and say, look at this. Although some of you as students may feel like I do that because you feel a strong strike to your butt. Do this. No, physically don't hit anybody. Of course I don't. But the way I teach may feel like that, may feel aggressive. Appreciate that you've stumbled through your life, what you've been looking for the last 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, whatever it may be, that you've actually stumbled into this, or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's another direction altogether. Maybe you've stumbled into wanting to become a biologist, musician. That's all fine. But the gratitude, if you stumble into this path, you've actually, while walking through the garbage of samsara, which, as I said, is very, very magnetic. Some aspects of samsara are delightful. They're very seductive. And it just looks like, yes, video games. Yeah, let's do this with our mind. Okay, you can, might go for a few years, few months, but it's relatively, it's kind of a dead end there, unless you become the greatest video game player there ever lived. Then it's like becoming the most famous golfer who's ever lived. You're going to die too. So everything dies. Everything that shows up dies, including your most difficult thought pattern about this or her or him or the job or the workers or what's happening to your health. Everything goes away. It just might take some time, and it will maintain its presence as long as you fight with it. If you don't want it, or if you want it to change a little bit, so there's aggression and there's passion, or if you try to just distract yourself into video games, or I'll just do this, I'll just watch Netflix. That's what I do. I start feeling bad, I just turn on Netflix. Isn't that what we did last night? No, I'm not kidding you. It is about awareness of what's occurring, not what's occurring. It's about awareness of what is coming and going, not the actual thing that you are being aware of. You can do that. It just takes a long time. It takes a lot of work. It takes dedication, it takes devotion. It takes returning. Don't maintain it. Don't maintain anything. Return. You return. In our situation, we return to the vow. I vow to be with all things. I vow to do good. This is the 3 pure precepts. I vow to do good. I'm not telling you how that good, just I vow to do good. That's going to show up all different kinds of ways. It might start out as doing good for somebody that you think they need. It might take you some time to see you need to mind your own business. Best thing you can do for that person is respect their confusion, not march right in there and start to say, you shouldn't do, you should, you shouldn't. Get permission, and sometimes make sure that they really mean that rather than say, sure, I want your help. They don't want your help. The Buddha, the teacher, the teaching, and then the community. Sometimes the community is not reified or returned to enough. The community is so important. That's why we're in this community, contrary to other communities, different than other communities that I've been in over the last 50 years or close to 50 years. We have fully ordained monks. This means if you're here, this is your life. Doesn't mean you can't have a job, drive a Corvette. Anybody here drive a Corvette? No. Good. I want to ride if you do. Doesn't mean you can't do all kinds of things. It's very situational. You might become a fully ordained monk and might just continue to work as a therapist. And the person might never even know you're a monk. But you're working on your mind, on seeing the truth for yourself, so that when you do step away from that training ground called the wall, or the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, the teacher, the teaching of the community, when you go to help somebody else, you actually respect their confusion rather than try to cover it up with whatever medications or meditation. Meditation is not a solution. It's a path. So, gratitude, be grateful. Be grateful for everything that's showing up, even for the difficulty that's showing up, because that's your Dharma gate, that's your gate of truth, so that you personally are feeling this or this. Someone else is not even understanding why you're having difficulty with that, because it doesn't bother them. But with you, you're tied up in knots over certain kinds of feelings or activities that's happening in your relationships, in your partnerships, in your sangha, in your community, even with your teacher. You're tied up in knots over that. And that is what I'm calling it, is if you're a student, 100% student, that means you're on receive all the time. You're always learning everything. That wall, these flowers, this glass of water, this sound, teaching. Receive it through all the sense fields. Receive it through the ears. Receive it through the nose, through the mind, through the eyes. Don't differentiate anything. But if you do differentiate, then just receive the differentiation. If you do judge, then just look at the judgment. Don't get rid of the judgment. Don't improve. There's a lot of room for questions here. I'm going to open it up in a minute for that. But when I say don't improve, I'm not saying that there might be a side effect of training the mind to see the truth yourself, that you might find that you no longer engage in any arguments with people. You're no longer particularly trying to be the smartest person in the room. And you're finding that people come and bringing aggression to you. You actually see deeper, that you don't just lock and load yourself and go with aggression back to them. You don't do that. You actually see, because you've been looking this way, you're able to look out this way and see that that person is suffering deeply and they don't know what to do but fight with you or fight with something. But you see the aggression, but you all see right behind it is fear. They're afraid. And if you have not looked at your own fear that you've been covering up, you don't have to solve it. You don't have to get rid of it. You have to see it. Be responsible for this body-mind complex that arises, that appears like a self, but is not. This is not an individual. You are not even a human. Human beings, that's temporary. 70 years, well, in my case, 81 years. That's temporary. Going away. But who you actually are never goes away. Because it is not what appeared. You can't see a transcendent understanding of consciousness. That's why it's a mystery. As long as we're embodied, it's going to be really difficult to do that. That's why if you see what this is, you won't need proof. You won't need somebody to come say, yeah, Sokuzan, I think you got it. That may or may not happen. If you see it, you'll know it. You won't need to have anyone approve of your realization. Questions, please.
Sokuzan, you're talking about, or you mentioned earlier, not taking a position on anything.
Yes.
If you're in a situation that's confusing, does it take some discipline to not take a position?
Somewhat. But I would say the most important part about not taking a position initially as a student is to first see the way you keep taking positions. Start at the root of the whole thing. Start at the actually see how you're positioning yourself. Watch what the ego does. Don't stop it or cover it up or try to improve, because then all you're doing is getting a shinier ego that's more in the shadows. You follow me a little bit? So then just observe that. It's not comfortable. It's called the spiritual path, not the mundane path of improving. There will be no improvement, but there could be, there could be spontaneous realization of what this is. It's possible. Or it could be very slow and just dragging its butt, but it just never seems to get realized. I've been sitting hundreds of hours every year. Yes.
Sokuzan, in response to a question I asked you, you once said if no reference points show up in a situation, just do nothing.
Yes.
Does the demand or need to do something just need to wear itself out?
Usually, that's a good way of saying it. You just notice it comes up, but you don't bite. If you feel anger, somebody's triggered something in you, they are your feelings. Nobody's pouring buckets of emotion into you. They're your emotions. And when I say yours, I don't mean the personhood, the ego. Well, the ego will take possession of that because it needs to feed on something in order to feel like it's real and it's somebody as opposed to everybody else. it's right, I'm right, how I feel. You'll notice that happening. It's very subtle. It takes a lot of sitting meditation to see that. I'm not saying you couldn't do it another way, but what I recommend is sit down, hold still, and observe what happens in the mind stream until nothing much happens. Eventually, occurrence is seen for what it is. Unreal. It's still there. There's still a bunny rabbit. Unreal. Nothing against bunny rabbits. They don't know about that. Go ahead.
Sokuzan, for me, a lot of fear seems to come up if just seems like there's too much space and not knowing what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a matter of like desensitizing yourself to that?
A little bit of a desens. It's a part of that, but it's also beginning to see that there's nothing substantial there. That it's the word it's used in the tradition is rangjung, Tibetan, for self-existing. It just appears. You can't see all of the various snakes or wires or things that are coming in to fuel that. All the fuel lines from dependent origination, pratitya samutpada. There's no individual anywhere. There's just an incredible appearance that looks like a self, looks like a person, looks like a body, looks like a form, looks like a thought, looks like. But if you look closely at it, it's just, it's like the movie, The Matrix. They did a fairly good job of that, but it's not even that. It's worse than that. Because you can't see it. It's worse than that. And it's better than that. Why? Because if you see it, you're liberated. What is liberated? Consciousness that was never imprisoned at all, other than when there was a belief in a body, a belief in thoughts, a belief or a disbelief or an ignorance. When that all has to come apart, and it comes apart through the sitting practice of meditation. And as far as I'm concerned, there's different ways to do this. There's some teachers that teach otherwise. They are not incorrect. I'm not here to correct anybody. I've got maybe 24 students when you say guess?
I would say more.
But okay, 36. But not many. Not many people want to hear this. And I don't mind. I'm not here to promise anything. There are no advertisements here. Well, yes.
Sokuzan, is there a way to have gratitude for ego and the negativity?
Yes, there is. Have gratitude for everything. Bow down to everything. And how this looks for you, because of our culture is not from India, and our culture is not from Tibet, or hundreds and hundreds of years of the Buddha Dharma and dedication and devotion. The students show up in lots of different ways. And here this is kind of a hybrid. I had a Tibetan Vajra master who was a powerful, powerful teacher. I would not be here if it weren't for him. I probably wouldn't be alive because of the self-hatred. So we're going to have to at some point, and this is different for every person, and we don't have a cultural standard for everyone. So everybody has to do this or do this. You'll notice the way we do this is we make it up, we invent it, but we don't abandon the culture of the Soto Shu in Japan. We look at it closely. How much of this do we need with this old man's guidance? How much of this form do we need? I don't care about Soto Shu. They can do whatever they want to do. They approve of us, fine. They don't approve, fine. Same thing with the Tibetan lineages. They have a different way of looking at things. So we're using there's a Tibetan shrine back there with the Kagyu lineage on it. So, but I don't know what we're going to do with that. Do you? No. The only thing we do there as a practice that aligns with that is the sadhana of Mahamudra that Trungpa Rinpoche wrote in Tagsang in 1968. And that was downloaded into it. He even said that he received that from somewhere and wrote it. And it's a powerful sadhana. So we use that. And he was my guru. I can't use any other word than that. And I am not a guru in the sense that we kind of think a guru is. I'm a Dharma teacher. So our culture is kind of telling us, this neighborhood is kind of telling us what we need to do and how we need to manifest. And with gratitude for having a building, having all of you join and support this, and having the bravery to use this new technology. We have Zoom. People come and sit, look at the wall, and I know I've been here every day for 18 days. I think I have, haven't I? pretty much. So I see you sitting there, and I'm sitting here, and you're sitting there. So what's up? What up? I mean, it's just where we're trying to train our minds and see what this is. It's both enjoyable in some way, some odd kind of way, and it's heartbreaking in another way, because it's so difficult to see this. And the closer you get to the fire, that's why it says in the Tibetan tradition is, get too close to the teacher, you get burned. In other words, the teacher is going to teach you, not because of her intention, but because someone is living out of the truth. It's you can get close to that. It's like being around the flames. The teacher doesn't deliberately teach anybody. The teacher is, what I'm doing now is not deliberate. I didn't think about this ahead of time, other than, I don't know, whenever I sent you the text saying what to talk, you asked me, what is it? Did you ask me a question this morning? What did you ask me?
Do you have a talk title?
And what happened then?
You said, yes, I do.
But when I said yes, I do, I wasn't sure yet. I don't, really, what I'm saying, I don't plan. I don't. And it used to worry me that I wasn't planning things, because I thought I was peculiar. But I don't think that anymore. Now I know I'm peculiar.
Would you mind? Culturally, it
You're
seems.
next. Go ahead. Culturally,
Culturally, it seems like there's a practice of gratitude that is just about ignoring the bad stuff that's happening.
yeah.
What does gratitude look like that doesn't ignore the suffering?
There are different ways it'll show up, but this is what I think you're possibly looking for or might resonate with. Feels like failure. Feels like disappointment. Feels like we just can't, what we're doing is useless. It won't really help. Do it anyway. That's how it feels to give something you don't understand, to actually give of yourself, give right into the darkness, right into the midnight in the middle of the woods, give right into that. This is called relative bodhicitta, the mind of awakening that gives, give your attention to everything. That's a simple way of saying it. Look at everything, especially the difficult areas. More. You know what I'm talking about. Sucks, doesn't it? No. Do it anyway. Just do it anyway. Donate yourself to the world. That doesn't mean you're doing what they're saying. We're not talking about that. We're talking about fundamental understanding in your mind stream, where you're just giving your attention to everything. You're looking at everything. And if you can, endeavor not to prejudge anything. But quite often that shows up how you can't help but be prejudiced against some people, some things, especially people who are totally in a different dimension than you're in and are working with their minds or their world in a really negative or warlike way. Difficult, but do it anyway. More. Ondo.
Divine, how does failure at this practice help us see that we're not separate?
The failure part is hits right at the very nature of self-centeredness or the ego, because that's the part. The ego wants to win, wants to be successful, wants to be a good practitioner, wants to. But the way that is being pointed out here is when the negativity arises, don't cover it up with a strategy. When the negativity arises, which you've been experiencing, just eat it. It's just like something being served to you that smells bad. You don't like it. Since if somebody else with no practice would say that, would come to me with that, I would say, well, let's see, how can we work with that? And I would find another way, because I would be meeting them where they're at. But you, as a fully ordained monk, and you've been a monk for a few years, been practicing for a lot longer than I met you, in the time that I've known you, just return. And the feeling of failure is a dharma gate. Don't cover that up. That's anything that happens in your mind stream, especially the very negative things that show up in the mind stream. Don't cover them up. Don't investigate them, and don't look over her shoulder. It's none of your business what she's writing. Yeah, you could, I'm sure she wouldn't mind. Just don't correct her spelling. More?
What about, how does that failure help us see that we are not separate?
Because eventually the one who thinks they're failing is seen through, because you're looking at the very, instead of covering up the failure, which reinforces the self-centeredness, instead you're eating the failure, you're receiving, you're not going to shut anything out. You are completely generous. Your doors are open, your back door, all your windows are open, and it is as if you are saying, let me have it. It's another way of addressing the Tonglen practice, or giving and sending while riding the breath. Except I don't do it that way because that's dangerous for people to do. But you just do it as not in a form, don't structure it in a form, like following the breath, like you're trying to accomplish something, but just that attitude. It's like saying, whatever comes, I'll receive it. I'll receive it. Then I'll also watch the way that I can't quite receive that without adding that up as some kind of where you're keeping some kind of record of how much you're able to receive and how much you're not. More? Can you remember your question?
It changed.
Okay, I got another question. I'm not the first one.
So bowing. I think it was Junshu's question. What is gratitude?
Okay, we'll go on then. What do you think it is?
I thought your response was good.
Oh, good. Thanks. But
So is gratitude an action?
it's an outflow. Yeah, it's the receiving is, you're receiving the world, you're tasting this, you're hearing that, you're smelling, you're tasting. All of your senses are working, not just a mind, which is classifying, oh, don't taste that, oh, don't listen to that, me, and my stuff, and I got to protect myself. If you step on this path, that's the end of the protector in terms of the ego, but the beginning of the protector in terms of the Dharma. The Dharma is a great protector. It's the ultimate truth about the nature of reality. Don't quote me. But consider it. You can consider it. Well,
So bowing. How do we produce gratitude? Bowing.
by deliberately, as we do, we're not doing it right now so much because we're doing this other practice for a whole month, this group retreat. But we'll go back to coming in, bowing when we chant the sutras. I think there's a total of 9 bows if you include the one that the doshi is doing. So we're doing that, been doing that every day for, not every day, but most every day for years. How many years have you been doing
I think almost 11 now.
it? Okay. So I've been doing it a little longer than that. So that's using the body mind are not two different things. They just look like it and really are intensely two different things. But if you take your wish or your desire to extend yourself, to be, to have gratitude, then it's difficult to do that with the mind, although it can work a little bit, but do it with the body. This is why we have prostration. We have half prostration where we lift the feet of the Buddha. We have a full prostration where you're not worshiping anybody. This is not a cult. People will look at this and say, it looks like a cult to me. Everybody's wearing the same color. No, they're not. She's wearing gray. So it will look like that, but if you step into it, you see there's no requirement, there's no demand. No one's required. You can leave anytime, do whatever you want. I might disagree with you a little bit. You decide you're going to, especially if you're a monk, going to leave and take your robe off. But I would respect that if that happened. So far, that has not happened, has it? People have done it with the Raksu. So some people get into this, start, and then I don't know what happens. They don't tell me about it. They just stop coming. Is that wrong? No. They're doing exactly what their karma is telling them. They can only handle so much. This is not their lifetime. I mean, this literally, not their lifetime to do this, but it was their lifetime to step on the path. And the way you get off the path, it would be much better if you came to me and asked permission to leave. I've had that happen too. I say, sure, you can leave. Good luck. Give me your Raksu and put it on the shelf. We've done that, I think, once, twice, maybe. One person came back and wanted to start over. So it varies with everybody. There's no right way to do it, and there's no requirement. We have forms, and we try to observe the forms, but if everybody left, I'd go home. There's no advertisements. But
How might production of gratitude look when we're not in a position to, or in a place to do something formal like prostrate? I'm thinking like traffic or at the grocery store.
you could say it in your mind. There are mantras for that. There are also sayings. The one that I have used for many years, I think I heard it somewhere. I might have made it up, but I never know what I made up and what I haven't. But thank you very much. I have no complaints whatsoever. In the midst of a traffic jam, go through that in your mind. Say it 50 times. Go, Mala. Where's my other Mala? Where's my other Mala? This is one of the reasons we have beads. It's not necessarily a count. I don't know how many's on here, and there's no place to end. I just use it. This one is 108 because that's the standard thing, but from His Holiness. But this is thank you very much. I have no complaints whatsoever. Thank you very much. Do it very slow. Think of each word, and then do it very fast, and then do it faster, and then do it so fast you can't understand it, and then return to saying it very slow. Thank you. And then the things will come up like, who am I thanking? What am I thanking? It's not necessary to know that, but that will come up as a question. Thank you very much. No complaints. You're just thanking everything. Nothing is really fundamentally separate. You can address ultimate reality. Why? Because you're not separate from it. And why won't you get a result or a feedback? Because you're not separate from it. If you know what this is, then you're not separate from anyone. And you don't care what happens next. You really, really don't care whatever anything. This doesn't mean that you'll walk out in front of traffic, that you somehow need to be in an enlightenment ward. It means that you're not separate from anything, and you meet everything where it's at. In the middle of its confusion, her confusion, their confusion, your confusion might show up at the same time. Thank you very much. I have no complaints whatsoever. Thank you very much. I have no complaints whatsoever. In the midst of a traffic jam. Is that what you're looking for? You're welcome. What's next?
Are you saying that we don't particularly have to feel grateful to practice gratitude?
No, I am. So the gratitude where you feel grateful for something, that shows up too. And you would say, you just know, thank you. Thank you. It might be with the path. It might be for this old monk. It might be for your partner who's sitting next to you, for how she's functioning. Might be gratitude there. That might not really even look like something she's doing, but something you're grateful for. It can show up in all of those ways. Gratitude it's an outflow, but it's one that is based on the three pure precepts of do no harm, just do good, and be with all things. Be with all things is the vow of the Bodhisattva. Whatever shows up, don't agree, that's not being with everything. Don't disagree, that's not being with everything. And don't look away. Close your eyes. Receive. And the way you'll know you're receiving is you don't know what it is. It has no identity. It has a singularity that may weed it out from what's happening down the hallway over here, or what the noise is coming from the back bedroom. But what is there is unknowable. You are free from what you know. You've been liberated from what you know. So it's worse because it's painful for the ego to go through this spiritual path. It's worse than, it's terrible, painful, it's hard, do it anyway. But it's better than all that, because if you attain realization, there are no issues, there's no problems, except the ones that show up in other people who are closing their minds and hiding from their own Buddhahood, their own enlightenment, because they're addicted to samsara, passion, aggression, ignorance. They want, they crave, they hate, they ignore. You're not doing that anymore, so you're going to get the full boat. Receive it. More?
Thank you very much.
Welcome. Ondo,
Ondo Bowing, is there something we can do as a Sangha to practice gratitude together?
you're doing it right now during this Ondo. Okay, your name is so similar to the Ondo and Ango. Did I get it right? No, I didn't. You get it right. So you're doing it. You're coming in here. This is a kind of gratitude, And for me to come in, I come in as a teacher, but also I don't want to separate myself from those who are doing a completely new practice that we haven't done, which is sitting 8 hours a day for 28 days straight. Some people are actually doing almost the entire thing. Some people are doing as much as they can along with their jobs, and just do what we can. The Sokuzan did the whole practice for 2 weeks, and now he has to go back to work or he'll get fired. That simple. So we just meet everything where it's at. More?
Well, I'm wondering if there's something we can do to be more explicit. Like even after a book study, we say, thank you for your teaching. We do the supplication for your life. Is there something more that we can be more intentional about the gratitude?
There probably is. But that's not shown up over here yet. It's shown up in some students. Some students express their gratitude towards this teacher in a more personal way. And especially people I'm very close to, like Sokuzan, like Unyo. What was your name again? Freedom Mountain. Dusty Trail. Oh no, it's, what is it? Path of something. What did they name you? Shining Path. Or Government Teacher. Is that your name?
It is today.
Huh?
It is today.
No, it's a Path of Grace, Ondo. Take a few questions if there are any. Any questions on the magic screen of, well, there's 46 windows on here. Go ahead.
I've been noticing the really large amounts of energy that I put into fighting and tussling with what looks like confusion, what I think is confusion.
Yes.
Or muddiness or lack of clarity.
That's awareness.
What I'm wondering is
awareness. It's awareness. It's not confusion. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. What I'm wondering is if what it looks like to you that I'm fighting.
Looks like you're doing exactly what you need to do. Your only job as a student is to receive as much as you can. You live right in this complex. You live in the monastery. And you're available because of your work situation, your relationship to Ruby, your daughter. You can come over here and practice quite a bit, or you can practice at home too, since there's a COVID situation going on there. But it's only about the awareness of the fighting. If you try to stop it, then you buy into the structure of relative truth, pratitya samutpada, and it's more than happy to continue to supply you with ammunition so you can fight. And that's circular. It's called samsara, samsara, samsara. So you have to liberate yourself. You don't have to. You can do whatever you want. There's plenty of lifetimes ahead for you. But if you're on this path, and if you're listening to this old man, I'm saying just see what is occurring. Don't evaluate it. Don't buy into the description of I'm fighting with it. Don't buy into it. Listen to it. Be very, very clear about what that is. Don't accept it. Don't accept anything. You hear people say, well, you just have to accept it. No, you don't. It kind of feels like ego is not going to accept anything. I don't mean that. I'm just saying, don't accept, don't reject. Accepting is passion. Rejecting is aggression. And then shutting down, of course, is ignorance. Passion, aggression, and ignorance. Be aware of whatever's happening. And whatever arises in the mind stream, including feeling like you're struggling, that's awareness. You're struggling. Just watch the struggle. Sit on the sidelines. Get to the front row of the theater. Sit in the front row. Sitting meditation. Shikantaza. Sit in the front row of the theater. Watch the chaos. But don't jump out of the first row of the theater onto stage and start punching things, or fighting, or arguing, or shaking your finger, or looking ashamed. Any of that. Don't do anything. Don't be an actor. Don't be a director. Don't be a stagehand. Don't be anything. Just be an observer, be in the audience. Just a kind of a silly, mundane image, but it's like that. It's not that, but it's like that. I'm just gonna watch this play. I'm just gonna watch this. I'm not gonna believe it. I'm not gonna disbelieve it, and I'm not going to ignore it. That's how it's done, and that's called the path. That's training the mind to see clearly. We're not trying to accomplish something. Who you actually are is already the Buddha. So you're already totally clear, totally consciousness only. It's already there. It's already the case. All you have to do is stop covering it up. And we spent lifetimes covering it up with all of our shenanigans, our partners, our job, our community, our flag, and all of the stuff that will draw you right out of the spiritual path, right into people that are saying, you have to vote for this, or you have to do this. I'm not saying that doesn't have some relative truth to it. Of course it does. That's why it's so seductive to just stop. You'll even be told, why would you sit and face the wall when the people in Ukraine are this, or the children here are being harmed by this? I say, what? You've heard me talk. I said, do both. Train your mind, but if you feel compelled to join the Peace Corps, I might talk to you a little bit about it. I say, you're going to be under the control of the government, and the government is not particularly clear on anything. So, but there are ways that you can serve people and help people without donating your whole life to something that is just that the whole engine there is based on passion, aggression, ignorance, success, failure, right and wrong. Our whole legal system is flooded with insanity that parades as clarity. You shouldn't be punishing people. You should be helping them, all of them, even the murderers. Help them, because if you don't, the world is just going to be. They want to take the guns away rather than actually help the murderers. Why would you help them? They kill people. Yes, because they were suffering so much. Help them. No, I don't have any magic potion for doing that other than face the wall. But some people aren't ready to do that. So you have to meet them where they're at. They may meditate, they may not. Doesn't matter. You need to meditate, not convince anybody else to meditate. Wasn't that a great answer to your question? He's clapping. Is there? Yes, go ahead, Kodo.
Kodo bowing, a little of last week's talk. How do you talk about the concept of free will?
Well, first of all, it's not true, but it is. It's not true as it's set up. Like you have the free will to go there. So there's some of that, but it's not thorough enough. It's not complete. It's partial. It's so much partial that it causes a relative truth to be convincing. I can get up right now. I could get up and just walk right out. And I've done that before in book studies. I've done kind of a free will where I walk over here and look out the window in the middle of talking about a question or something. So yeah, you can do that, but it's so convincing. I can pick up this kotsu and I can put it back down. So free will. Nope. Not free will. It's ego language for being able to move my hand. These are not the same hand, but they're not separate. How do you want an example of non-dual? This can do this, but this can do the same thing. And they can do it at the same time. They can clap, they can pray, they can, the best demonstration here is bring these hands together and bow to the world, bow to everything. Appreciate everything, receive, generosity. Both is always mutual. As soon as you start sending this out, it starts coming back. And it might not come back in the way that your ego would prefer. It may come back in a way that may even be threatening to you. Further, Kodo?
Well, I guess part of the problem is then how do you prevent that concept from becoming a surrender or a disregard or depressing or whatever?
Okay, I don't do anything with that concept, but I also don't ignore it. Just like you ask about it, I say, well, there's something to that. You can do a little bit, but then what happens? The little bit that you do becomes some kind of proof that you can do stuff and you have free will, like we hear in quite often in cultural circles or places where there's no real fundamental mind training happening. And what I'm talking about basically is sit down, hold still, and watch your mind. We have the feeling that we can accomplish. What is the saying? Well, you got to make the right choices here. We would lecture our children that way, as if they had some control. Who don't have control over anything. And seeing that is a kind of control. It's the closest it's the closest you are going to get to controlling anything. It's to see the way everything comes and goes without preference, without picking and choosing. No picking and choosing. This doesn't mean that you miss at the corner of the house, a lamp has fallen over and it's short-circuited and it's starting a fire on the carpet. Oh, it's just, you're going to tell yourself that it's something other than what it is. You need to address that. So that way you are working in the context of dependent origination. So you would, of course, put the fire out, or if it's really, really bad, you'd maybe call the fire department, or you get out of the building before you die. So it's relative. So there's, if you wanted to call that free will, there's a little bit of it there, but the free will is always backed up by areas that we ignore because we think there's something else. That room that you're in right now is you. So it's you. It's not the ego you, but it's consciousness. Everything is consciousness. This is consciousness. It's a thing. It's at a frequency that's very low. So therefore, I can make noise with it. That proves nothing. But we do that all the time. We clattering silverware. It gives us the feeling that we're in the room, we're in the kitchen, we're doing something. We are a person this is unreal. You have to see it. And it won't be a conclusion. It won't show up as, oh, I see everything is unreal. No, there's no conclusion. Passion, aggression, and ignorance. Nothing concludes. It's better than that. It's worse than that. It's better than that because you are liberated from the chains of your mind, from the conflicting emotions about the nature of what this is. You don't have any preferences anymore. This doesn't mean that it's okay if somebody killed somebody else. You might be more clear about that than anybody in that particular scene because you actually see what it is. You actually see what it is, and you probably will try to stop that because it's a very relative construct that your body mind is in. So it's not like you become the spiritual being who lives in the ether where you don't help anybody. You might be more pragmatic, the very best person to have there because they're just looking at what arises and relating with it directly without a bunch of philosophy about should I help them, should I help them, should and should you? You have a question? Sir,
Paushan bowing. Is it possible to be grateful without strengthening the ego?
It doesn't matter. It was possible, and it's impossible. But it doesn't matter. Don't worry about strengthening it. It's a ego is unreal. There is no self anywhere. It just looks like it. But if you're trying to not strengthen the ego, this is the very nature of ego is to just let me in. I'd just like to be enlightened along with you. I promise I won't make a mess. I just will be there. I'll just be that me, and I'll be in enlightenment. No, it's worse than that. It's worse than that, but it's better than that in that your whole central system. It's no center, no fringe, no otherness, empty of other. It's vast and it's real and it's unreal at the same time. So all you would do in that case, to go back to your question, would be just observe that. Observe that you're building up something that fundamentally is unreal. So that way, you're actually helping that part of the consciousness that is trying to get an identity. You say, okay, well, we'll help you there. You're not saying that, but you might be working with it that way. That might be your way of actually seeing it, to emphasize it. That's even in the teachings. The teaches 7 points of mind training talks about emphasizing something. Do you remember which slogan that was? Anyone? You follow me?
Paushan bowing a little bit.
That's enough. Not going anywhere.
So who or what is grateful?
Just consciousness. Yes, very good. It's possible consciousness only can be grateful because it has no position and it's not separate from anything. But it's still, if consciousness is still working with not fundamentally seeing who this is yet, it's still working with an ego, then it's just watch what it does. You may find yourself fueling it, feeling more egotistical, more self-centered. Just observe. Don't do anything unless you have to. And if it comes up like that, you may have to fuel that for a while so it'll have a more vivid shape to it. So you can see its unreality. And it starts to show up instead of like somebody, the image I quite often use is, it's like a clown on the roof. The ego is still here, but doesn't have much access to this. It's just a way of talking about it. That doesn't even work either. It's a way of saying that it's unreal. Sure. Yes, sir.
Does gratitude eventually show up without the intention to produce it?
Yes. Yes. Eventually, it's just everything comes apart. And there's just Kobanchino Roshi.
Yuhong Baoing.
Go ahead, Yuhong.
Is there anything we lose on this path? Baoing?
Anything you lose?
Yes. Is there anything we lose on this path? Baoing.
Yes. Yes, there. As you're on the path, you're losing all kinds of things. Everything is falling off, coming apart, disintegrating, and just not holding water, let alone air. So everything comes apart, and you more and more see the complete open spaciousness of every moment. And you see that one moment does not lead to another moment. There's only this moment. There's no past moment, no past and future. Those are gone. I mean, they're still there relatively, but you are actually living in a dimension that is not separate from this. And you can even say it's exactly the same as this because it is transcendent. It's transcendent in the midst of eating your cereal, in the midst of seeing that some of the things in your mind stream are coming apart, falling away. Your belief about yourself, your path, about ideas you have about your two children. You know, there's more and more space around everything. You could say it that way. So you lose the contraction around everything to protect yourself, to operates out of fear of being too open. That starts to come apart as you sit, as you practice. No guarantee. You can't be guaranteed. I don't know what kind of karma everyone is dealing with. For some people, this might not even be your lifetime to awaken. But you will awaken. Everyone has Buddha nature, is a traditional way of talking about it. It's about just stop covering it up. More? Yuhong?
No, thank you. Yuhong Baoing. I have one more question. You just mentioned that, to teach children self-control. However, my difficulty is I want to teach my children how to respect others and themselves too. So before they jump in something, I want them to be aware if I can be helpful. So how I can approach without interfering them. Baoing.
Yeah, it's a hard one. And children, of course, even though there are children, their wiring, their karma is sometimes so different. We wonder if they're even ours because they're going such a different direction. But you can just meet them where they're at. Your Abe and Ellie are, 7 and 9? Is that close?
It's 6 and 8.
Oh,
yes.
I'm kind of rushing things a little bit there. So, but anyway, you could just, I would try to talk to them personally and see how they're doing. Give them a little bit of time to say what's going on with them. Ask them highly personal questions. You get to do that when they're that tiny. I see some shadows in the background. Who's peeking over the computer screen? Hi. What are you up to, Ellie?
I'm going ice skating after class.
Oh, I wish I could go. That really sounds fun.
My brother's here.
Where is he?
He's right here. It was his birthday on the 16th.
What?
It was his birthday.
On the 16th?
Yep.
Of February?
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's wonderful. It's good that you keep having birthdays. Where's he at? Hi. What's going on?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, just listen to them a lot. Don't, and if you can, don't conclude. Especially Abe, you need to listen to him a lot. Right, Abe? Don't believe anything he says, though. You gotta be careful of that. Are there further questions in here? Yes,
Question from Isaac.
Isaac.
Is it helpful to share gratitude towards others?
I think it is. If I understand what you're saying, yes. You mean to let them know that you're grateful for them or grateful to who they are and so on? Is that what you mean, Isaac? Where are you? Well, we're losing some people, but there's a few here. I don't see Isaac.
He's watching on YouTube.
Huh?
He's watching on YouTube.
Okay. So I think it's just situational. So sometimes it might be good to do that, to share that, if I understand what you're asking about. Depends on who it is, how close your relationship, but if it's your mom or your dad or your brother, I know you have a good connection with all of them, at least as I recall. If I understood the question. Further questions?
Augie Bowing.
Yes, Augie.
Yeah, it seems like with most of the teachings, we notice we can't do them, and so we observe, receive.
Yes.
Opposite. How would that apply to gratitude then, Bowing?
Oh, same thing. Just seeing you don't want to be grateful. You're kind of noticing your miserliness. But yeah, why should I do that? People are not grateful for all the things I do. Why should I suddenly start? That's what the why question is circular. If you ask why, you may get an answer, you may not. And quite often the answer that you get, whatever it is, or the lack of an answer will reinforce the circularity of that discussion that you're having with yourself. But if you say, what is this? What is gratitude? In the face of some area that you're seeing, I can't be grateful to him or to her or that situation because it's just too, smelly. There's too much crap in there. So I just can't do it. That's gratitude. You have to start with don't get rid of the negativity, please. Don't get rid of anything to improve or get better. Just notice, stay in samsara. This is what the lotus does. The lotus roots are in the mud. The flower is beautiful, but she can't be beautiful without that mud, the mud of samsara. That's a traditional example of it. But stay in that. You'll notice if you stay in that, you notice that's the lineage. The Buddha, the first words out of the Buddha's mouth, as we understand, is life is suffering. He didn't say part-time, it's suffering. You need to see that it's not nihilism, it's the truth. Nerve endings are everywhere. Nerve endings are in the mind. You notice sometimes your thought pattern is going to get so painful. I know I used to take care of monkeys at one time, and they would have so much pain being locked up in a cage, they would start biting themselves, trying to convert what they're feeling in their mind stream over to biting themselves. At least that's how it looked. I don't know how it was. Sometimes we might do that. Some people, they get really distressed. They want to punch holes in themselves or somehow hurt or feel some kind of pain because the mental pain is so strong that the alternate physical pain is more bearable than sometimes horrible suffering that's going on in the mind stream. And the path, there's no guarantee, but that is a way to work with the negativity that allows it to come and go in the mind stream so you can see what it is fundamentally, that fundamentally it's unreal. It's unreal. There all the physical stuff that seems so hard, all the granite and all the chemistry sets. And you played with a lot of chemistry sets being a chemical engineer. So yeah, all of that is unreal. It's there and it shows up and it's part of the stage play, part of the prop, part of the curtains, part of the director, part of the actors, part of the stage, part. But fundamentally, it's unreal. It's an illusion. It's a myth. It is a delusion. If you see that it's a delusion, then you see that it's an illusion. That it's still unreal. It just doesn't have a hold of your control panel. I can take one more if there is one in here. Anything in here? Anything on screen? On Zoom? No?
How do you,
Go ahead, Andrea, go ahead.
how do you receive when it feels like your capacity to receive has been overwhelmed? Bowing.
Very similar, just be aware of that. That won't stay, that won't last. But it tends to persist if you push it away. It tends to persist if you fluff it up, and it tends to persist if you distract yourself. But if you just receive what's happening that you just described very clearly, just receive that. And it's as if you were saying to yourself, I don't care if this ever changes. You don't have to do that. I mean, you might, but I sometimes say, if you realize your true nature, you won't care how you feel. You won't be looking for some kind of temporary happiness, because the bliss of realization is not a feeling. It's not something you feel, it's something you are. So it includes everything, all the suffering. This is what it's talked about in the Bodhisattva path in several places, about you are not separate from all the suffering in the world. But if you received it all at once, you'd vanish or you'd be destroyed, because it's that powerful. So your outflows are to others, to save all beings, help others with their permission. Don't convert anybody to Buddhism. Don't teach anybody to meditate. Don't promote anything. Receive it as it is. As it is.
Andrew Bowing, thank you.
You're welcome. We can close.